that's part of the job, right? You're going to get thrown across a room, through a window.
A mirror.
And
always a mirror.
Always a mirror, and onto another building's glass roof, So that's one of the requirements.
It is.
Can you fall through a glass roof and still run? Okay, good.
You're hired. You're hired. That's on the LinkedIn.
Welcome to the Untitled Film Project Podcast, where we say, hey, go see the movie, then come and talk about it with us. This time we're talking about, well, Gover, why don't you tell them what the title of the movie is, because it's more of a paragraph.
Well, you know it as Ballerina, but it was marketed as From the World. Actually, you do better than that. Can you do From the World of John Wick, Ballerina.
I'm looking for the tribe with this mark.
Needing to know is what got us banished from the Garden of Eden. Are you prepared to be cast out again, Eve?
Yes.
So we're going to talk about Ballerina starring Ana de Armas, and we're also going to talk about the big question. At the end of every episode, we have a big question, and this time, it's great for an actor to have a franchise. 3 or 4 successful movies that just really do well for them amongst their other work. It's huge if you can achieve 2 successful franchises. So, want to know, who's your favorite actor who has had several successful movie franchises? A girl is orphaned and then goes to dance academy / assassin school. Let's get
Which I so wish was real. I'll talk to my wife. I'll see.
The uniforms are not the most expensive part of that school. Let's
Have
get
you
some
priced ballet shoes lately? Because I have, as the father of a dancer.
All right, AK-47 dance shoes. Let's get some initial reactions. Maybe let's start with Justin Bradford.
I liked it. I mean, this is a movie I don't feel like I want to go as far in depth with it. Either you liked it, were you entertained, or you're not. This is a movie that is meant to have you just completely lose yourself in the world of assassins. And as I know Gover can attest to, do they find new ways to entertain you when they off people?
Right.
And I think that is a key element here, that people are looking for that. And John Wick, right? There's the kill count that's happening all the time, and it's just, are they able to build upon that while still staying loosely within the story? And they do, and they set it up to where you understand when this film is taking place. They give you a backstory, they give you the means for what she wants. That's all you need. You don't have to look too deep for this. I was entertained. That's what matters. My wife was entertained in a movie like this, and for her, that's a lot. And she even says it. She really did enjoy watching this movie. And for me, that's all that matters, is I had a good time in the theater.
That is kind of the measuring stick of these movies, right? Like, you know what you're getting. It doesn't ask a whole lot of you. Are you entertained? But the same for me. And the John Wick movie has done an excellent job of creating a universe, a look, a feel that they have executed very well and up to the game, I think, with every movie in the series, and that continues with Ballerina. That's exactly what I wanted. That's exactly what I got.
I will just piggyback off Bradford and just say that, yes, you go and you want to turn your brain off and just, enjoy people getting offed in creative ways. That's fun for an hour, 45, or whatever it is. But I will say, this is why I have hope for movies that are supposed to be like that. They're supposed to be like, turn your brain off, go have a good time. Because, yes, there's a story here, and the story is well told in the sense that you see this girl be orphaned. You see that her dad's got this mysterious past. You see that she then chooses her own path in a way, and that the family kind of helps her become what she wants to be, but also an assassin and use the anger. It all makes sense to the very end. Even little throwaway lines that you think, oh, they're just saying that for color or whatever. And then all of a sudden it comes back an hour later. You're like, oh, that's why she does that. That's why her sister, that's why she wasn't brought to this opportunity as she was left behind. All those little things, they all made sense. And that is why I always have hope for turn your brain off movies, because they can be done well.
We have some interesting questions about the marketing of this film. But first, let's get into a deeper dive about the movie itself, Ballerina. Justin, I'm sure you've got something that stuck out to you as something you really enjoyed from this movie.
That's not named Ana de Armas.
Oh, well, I mean, skip me.
To me, that's okay. You can say Ana de Armas. There's nobody who's going to say you're wrong.
No. So I do think it was pretty evident in terms of where they had the movie taking place. And that's been one of those things is you have to understand where, because if you're creating this in a world of John Wicks, that you have to make it make sense, because we know how John Wick 4 ends. So you have to know when this is taking place. And it builds into more of the ballet school that we get teased with a few times, where Anjelica Huston is the director there as well, too. Yeah. We get a little bit more depth into what that training academy is as well. So I do like that, because you have a universe. And that's what's so fun about this, is you have a universe that is still meant to be real in the real world, but this is a sub-segment of this universe that exists. And I love how they're expanding upon it, because once you build something like this, you can do whatever you want, because you're basing it in quasi-reality. Yeah. And you're able to tie so many things together of why the regular general public doesn't see this going on. So that's what I enjoy about these movies, and I enjoy about this one as well, too, because it continues to build upon the universe. And I think that's what people have wanted. Like, yes, we have John Wick, we love this, but we also love this universe because it's fun. The world of assassins. I mean, there's video games dedicated to things like this, but they built a movie franchise on this whole segment of the assassin's world and how it operates and its own communication systems and everything of that sort.
Their own sets of rules.
Own rules, everything, the way their own values and money, but how they also have the rules of war and everything too. So that's what I enjoy the most, is continuing to build in this universe, and they can continue to do that if you do it right and make a good movie like this that has a story, like Gover talked about, where you can still connect to the story, you understand the reasonings for the character, as simple as he killed my dog. Like like in the first
time, be complicated.
Right?
You just have to write it well.
Right. And then you continue on there, and you have those little tossbacks to where it's like, oh, they're really actually tying the story together, but they're also making a great assassin movie where you're just killing a bunch of people on screen for the sake of revenge. You can do it. Like exactly what Gover said, it proves it can be done. You can make good turn your brain off action movies, and the world of John Wick, not all going to be complete bangers, right? But as long as you keep it to a certain level of entertainment, keep on making them.
And I'll say the John Wick movies, the production value is so high that it elevates it beyond its template. You know what I mean? It's a formula movie, even with Ballerina continuing from John Wick, but everything they do is top level. Your effects are going to be great. Your choreography is going to be, top notch. Everything about it. There's nothing on this movie that they cheap out on and don't do really, really well. And I think that's one of the keys to this being a successful franchise. It looks beautiful. It sounds beautiful. It's, everything about it is created at a high level. So, that's what they've trained me to expect, and they keep giving it.
And movies like this are typically dark. And this was actually lit really well for being a dark movie. And we talk about that plenty, right?
Yeah.
About these movies are so dark, you can't see anything. But even though this is dark, it's still staged properly to deal with the darkness when you're in clubs or things like that, or nighttime scenes. They still light it very well, even for it being dark.
And they had some fun with it in this one by setting a lot of it daytime with snow, which I thought was a really clever way to kind of make it not look ordinary. Because while I was watching the movie, I'm going, this would be a very uninteresting universe if they showed us like an overcast day on a Tuesday at noon. You know what I mean? Visually, it's not going to be very interesting. So you're always going to get a setting that is going to throw it into an alternate universe. And that's what I think they did with the snow, and created a really fun town that has a speaker system, a PA that one person can tell everybody everything.
In the watchtower.
Yeah, in the watchtower with telescopes.
Cults have those things.
Yeah.
You're right.
So
hey, nice call.
Thank you. I want to choose one scene to kind of sum up my deeper dive here. When she starts out as the assassin, Ballerina, learning the wrestling thing, all that stuff, right? She's not weak. but she's trying hard. Like it's it's not like it's she's not scared or anything. She's just like, I can't do it. And then they unlock that, and you can see the audience can watch her progressively get more dangerous and better. The first assignment, she goes out. She has a lot of failures in that. She obviously succeeds, but I mean, she's snuck up on behind a couple times, and she's the weapon's knocked out of her hand, and like all these things. You're like, well, John Wick wouldn't do that. But my point is that then they fast forward to what I think is one of the best scenes in the movie, which is when I think they fade to black after her tattoo thing or whatever, and then her first successful mission. And then they fade back, and she's in a bathroom. There's all a bunch of dead bodies around her. And then she gets on the elevator, and they go, "Oh, were you stuck in the elevator? Oh, it was scary." And then she keeps walking, and she gets out, right? Total badass, okay? Mm-hmm. And that was when I believed Ana de Armas could be a badass. Because when they announced that she was going to be the lead in an assassin John Wick movie, I was like, she's tiny.
Can she pull it off?
She's petite.
Yeah.
She's not, like, ripped. Like how is she going to be this relentless assassin like the world is calling for? But I also was willing to say, look, maybe it's not that. Maybe it's just from that world, and there's going to be an element, like, I don't know until I see it. And then I saw it, and that scene, a third of the way into the movie, I bought in. I was like, I get it. Because the audience is seeing the progression of going from good to great, and on top of that scene, I mean, you could just, honestly, on YouTube, if it was allowed, there's dead bodies and stuff, maybe you can't do it, but on YouTube, if they had just released that scene, movies release teasers sometimes, and it's just like the opening scene of, this first 6 minutes of Wednesday dropped recently, right, of season 2, okay? If they just did that, pick that scene from when it fades in from black and she's standing at the sink and all those dead bodies around her to when she walks out and gets in her car and drives off, if they just released that, it would have lit the movie fandom verse on fire. It was awesome.
Yeah, they kind of did that with Thunderbolts and Yelena leaving the building, walking out casually.
Right. That's right.
But Ana de Armas, credit to her because half of this is about how you carry yourself.
Yes, it is.
When you're not fighting.
That's right.
And it was believable.
I will say I was pretty sold given her appearance in No Time to Die in James Bond. It was brief.
Fair enough.
But I'm just saying that's me. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you.
I know.
For me, I was sold because, one, you had hot badass factor. There. Here, Ballerina's focused more on badass factor.
Yes.
It's James Bond, so they definitely sexualized her in James Bond.
Right.
But she's still very much a badass.
Talk about a formulaic movie.
Right. But that's where I was sold. I was like, you know what? She can pull it off. I've seen her in a James Bond movie where she's doing fight choreography. So for me, that's my moment when I was like, okay, I'm good with this.
And I'm certainly not saying that I doubted that. I'm just saying general audiences.
And for you, too. That's
like,
what you sold. Yeah.
What? Like her? If you go back to the 80s or maybe even the 90s, like Linda Hamilton was like, small.
She was ripped.
Like you're like, okay, she could be Ballerina. Right. There's no question. But Ana de Armas is, you're like, really? And it was just really great to have that flip in my brain. But again, it took that scene, and it was very nice. And that scene then, as a domino effect, made me realize that we're seeing the progression. She's not just going to come out of the gate and be a badass and just kill everybody and like, wow, this is like she's unstoppable.
You need a montage.
Yeah, it's like, no, it's okay. She's okay, good. Oh, holy crap! And then now she's going to beat everybody. It was nice to be able to see that as an audience member.
It's time to take all our words and turn them into numbers and score from the world of John Wick, Ballerina. Gover, why don't you kick us off?
It's Ballerina, Jim. No, I'm just kidding. Whatever. Ana de Armas is a badass, and they solved that kind of, not reputation, they solved the stereotype problem that the general public might have on thinking that she is a relentless assassin. And I absolutely love that. And they even showed us the progress as they went along. Thought that was awesome. As we talked about earlier, the story made sense. There's this orphan girl. She wants to revenge her dad, and she's given the tools to do that. She chooses to do it. It all makes sense. The sister's involved. It's great. So again, it is why I have hope on action movies that are supposed to be numbing, like a Godzilla vs. Kong type of scenario where you're like, okay, I want a little story. I don't want just this proves that it can be done. You can watch this without having seen the other four. which I thought is extremely important from a movie making standpoint, is if you like action movies, but you kind of know who John Wick is, because he's probably in the common American zeitgeist.
Baba Yaga.
But you don't have to have seen the 4. Maybe you weren't of age yet, or maybe it never.
Or you just thought there's 4 movies I can't make that kind of commitment.
Exactly.
That's where we're at these days.
That's right. Exactly. All that stuff. You can watch this without knowing any of that and still have a great time in the theater. I thought that was awesome and very well done. And I got to say, it's the best John Wick film that's not named 4. I went in thinking, I wrote about this on the Untitled Film Project Pod.com in my review, that I went into the theater thinking this is going to be a cash grab. And I left the theater thinking this is the second best movie of the franchise, 7.5 for me.
Very nice. I also, hold John Wick 4 as the standard for this universe and was hoping that they would do it justice with this new spinoff. I thought Ana de Armas was great. It was great to see Lance Reddick. Keanu Reeves. I didn't expect him to be in the movie as much as he was. I was grateful for it. It was great. It tied things together. Everything about it made sense. The production value is super high. That being said, the movie is kind of ridiculous if you look at it like sensibly. Obviously, the number one job in that town for the last third of the movie was assassin. Basically calling all assassins, which is the entire population. I've always said, there's always work to be had. If you're on LinkedIn, just go to assassin, because they're going through about 100 of them in a John Wick movie. Open to work, assassin.
Possible.
So yeah, the body count is high. The way people move and don't get destroyed. They get stabbed 500 times and they're impaled by an anchor, but they're still coming at it. All that, and it is a template. That's revenge. It's a dog. It's my dad. It's just all revenge. So regardless of it being a template and kind of what they always go to, was it well done? It was extremely well done. So I'm giving it the highest possible score I can give a John Wick type film, because it is fantasy, 7.5. So while you're thinking, that's just a decent score, I think that's as good as you can get in a movie as fun and silly as these movies. Bradford.
From the world of Justin Bradford's brain. From my world, here's my score. The score of From the World of John Wick, Ballerina.
From the world of 1 to 10, maybe 0 to 10.
Not directed by Guy Ritchie.
Oh my God.
I'm done. Sorry.
All right, so Jim already said it was great to see Lance Reddick on screen as well too. I made a little when I saw him.
Can I break in one second? This killed me because they ruined it in the trailer. If they don't put him in the trailer, I had 2 people in my theater, right? And we're packed. 2 theater go, and then nothing. Because you ruined it. That would have been a almost standing ovation moment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, go ahead.
Yes. But the way they're able to bring the world together by having Ian McShane in there, Angelica Houston, you bring in what was necessary to make people see familiar faces and characters.
Yeah.
To make them realize, okay, it really is within this world. It's not just, again, a spin-off. So those are, very thoughtful things of how can you break this into a new character story while still making it be in this world, is you have to have some familiar faces before you can jut off to new things and new ventures, right? Like both of you said, they did such a phenomenal job just in terms of entertainment and finding new ways to off people. Music was great, lighting was great. It was just a fun action movie, and Ana de Armas is great because I think she's pretty selective about the projects that she's taking on. Just looking at her profile, right? Maybe 1 or 2 movies a year is what she's involved in. And that's nowadays, when you see how some actors, it's like 3 or 4 churning them, right?
Yeah.
You can tell she's overall fairly selective because you go and look, and some of you can just continue to scroll, and you see her.
These are all 2024.
Right? And you only have to go like 4 or 5 down, and you're in like 2021, 2019. So she's selective too, and so I appreciate that she's choosing her roles wisely. And I think that pays off for her because she's also not getting oversaturated in the market, and that it makes you appreciate when you can see her pulling off this badass character so well. It makes you want more, and that's what you want out of actors and actresses, right? Is you want them to be so good in a role that you want more, whether it's something else or the same thing, you want more. So she's doing that very, very well. The fight choreography was phenomenal, and what you would expect out of from the world of John Wick. That's what you would expect. And so right along with you guys in terms of the type of movie that it is, in terms of the value of entertainment that I got out of it, it's a 7.5 for me as well.
Oh, across the board.
Woo!
That doesn't happen very often, folks.
Ding, ding, ding. Yeah, it's a jackpot. Start the wheels turning. The big question for this episode on the Untitled Film Project podcast: actors are very lucky if they get one franchise, a movie that spawns several other sequels that people just seem to love. Sometimes you get 50 of them, look Fast and the Furious. But tell me about an actor that you're thinking of that has done several franchises that became multiple movies with different IPs.
All right, you want me to go first, Bradford, or you want me to go first?
I can go first.
Go first.
Okay, and we discussed this briefly before recording.
Just for the question.
Yeah, and now it's definitely mostly a male-dominated thing.
Yes, it is.
So I did find a woman.
Oh.
I'm going with, and it's Jennifer Lawrence.
Okay.
You have Hunger Games and X-Men.
Yes, great
call.
call.
All right.
I
So,
like that.
obviously Hunger Games, huge franchise. Right. X-Men is X-Men and her version of Mystique as well, too.
Yes.
So, two very big, successful franchises. And especially you look at the first class series of X-Men movies, those are very popular, very well received as well. Same with Hunger Games. So, two huge franchises for Jennifer Lawrence.
Excellent example.
That's a great example. Wow.
Go over.
I'm going to go with Matt Damon.
Matt Damon.
Because obviously the Bourne movies, obviously.
Yeah.
All the Bourne movies. But then he also did the Ocean's trilogy. Now, Ocean's 12, not that great. But he's a part of that in every step of the way. And I'm sure he's got some other ones I just can't think of. But the Bourne movies and Ocean's trilogy, it was, he's known for those things. But his genius, if you will, is because he's got so many one-offs, like Good Will Hunting, of course, Oppenheimer, he's got so many great just kind of one-off movies in between, and the fact that he can do a highly successful franchise like the Bourne franchise, for example, and then also do Good Will Hunting and all of it is a true testament that you're not going to get typecast into a role. And so Matt Damon is my answer.
Now, if only Jimmy Kimmel could make time for him.
If only he could. He didn't get bumped every show.
Right? Oh, if only. I'm going to go with the obvious answer, and that's going to be Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford, storms onto America's screens in mass numbers with Star Wars. But then he has so many other franchises. Let's talk about the Jack Ryan movies. Then you have, you could say, the Blade Runner franchise. He's been there throughout. So he has had these reinventions at every stage of his life. Sure, some of them are sci-fi, but the others aren't. And the man is, there's a reason he's near the top box office draws of all time, because he's just Indiana Jones. There's just so many. So, Harrison Ford, you're the GOAT in this question, I think.
I have an honorable mention before we ask the listeners for theirs. Daniel Craig. He's in the James Bond franchise, but now he's in a highly successful Knives Out franchise.
Yes.
And kills it as the lead, by the way, in Knives Out. So
very different characters, too.
I think Daniel Craig is a great pick as well. He's another guy that can kind of chameleon his way into other movies as well. But yeah, Bond and Knives Out, those are two pretty stellar franchises. Obviously a lot smaller than Star Wars and Indiana Jones.
Sure.
But still, they're really, really respectable films, franchises.
We'd love to know, who is your pick of somebody who's had several successful franchises and been able to be very successful in those movies with different characters. Let us know in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. You can hit us up on socials. If you're listening to the podcast, you can find me pretty much on most platforms at Jim Chandler Now.
Find me at It's Govertime on Twitter.
Justin B. Bradford.
This is the Untitled Film Project Podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for listening to the Untitled Film Project Podcast. To support the show, please rate, review, follow, and subscribe. Original music by Jeremy Schwartz. Special thanks to the Music City Film Critics Association. Editing and post-production by Jeremy K. Gover. Voiceover by Chad Bennett.